believe all that. I mean, how bad things work.
I went to help.
These are the perfect victims.
This is one step above being unhoused, one step above being under the highway bridge.
It could happen to any one of us, any one of our families.
We need to have a system in place that's ensuring that people aren't being abused.
There's supposed to be a lifeline for people, a place where the elderly and disabled can live in safety and receive care. I'm senior investigative reporter Tanya Iser. After more than a year of digging, my reporting revealed vulnerable adults in our state living in unlicensed, barely regulated boarding homes, houses where authorities said they were exploited by the people running them. That investigation led to 2 new laws, a win for families who need this kind of care. But this victory comes after we uncovered horrific losses and a loophole in the law that let it happen.
I have to look for these.
Words don't come easily for Angelique Estes.
The got issues and knee issues and pain.
And you're bedridden.
Yeah.
But she wants to talk about what happened to her here inside an unlicensed boarding home in Arlington. Tell me about the water that they poured over you.
I just started having fun putting oil on my face. It was couldn't breathe.
What do you think they were trying to do? Torture?
Yeah.
Police showed up to this house in December after they got a 911 call. What'd you tell the cops when they got there?
Just I guess I will.
Court records say Estes went multiple days without her diaper being changed and was left to sit in her own feces.
Can't believe all that. I mean, how bad things work.
It was very disturbing to see some of the conditions that these individuals were exposed to.
Police say this woman, Regla Becerra, who goes by Sue, operated that boarding home and several others in Tarrant County. Becerra was arrested on an endangerment charge accused of abusing Estes. She declined requests for an interview. Becerra's unlicensed boarding homes in Mansfield, Arlington, and Grand Prairie are now at the center of a police investigation into as many as 20 deaths. And there are questions about how Becerra and her family came to own property belonging to dead clients.
These are the perfect victims.
This is one step above being unhoused, one step above being under the highway bridge.
State law mostly allows boarding homes to operate without oversight. Fort Worth and Dallas do regulate boarding homes. Arlington, Grand Prairie, and Mansfield, the cities where Becerra operated her homes, do not.
This is a big business, especially in Texas.
Sue was about the money.
Victor Lister used to work for Becerra.
Anybody that she could gain something from, she'd do everything in her power to disconnect them from their family and their friends so they couldn't have no contact.
Family members of clients told police and WFAA they believe Becerra drugged their loved ones.
They put a liquid down my throat. It was minty tasting. So I'm pretty sure they were drugging me.
Well, that's that stuff that Sue kept in the trunk of her car.
Lister says Becerra would keep clients' medications and give them to other clients.
Dead man's pharmacy, what I called it, because those are medications from the people that died. She'd collect them.
Recall that when police found Estes, she was living in this Arlington boarding home. But before it was a boarding home, it used to belong to another of Becerra's clients, Karen Walker.
She had type 2 diabetes that ended up kind of out of control.
Karen Walker was a registered nurse and grew up in Arlington. She inherited the home from her parents. When she got sick, her cousin says Karen turned to Becerra for help. But Regla Becerra didn't leave Karen in her own home. She moved her here to Mansfield to one of her boarding homes.
When Karen was at this home, she didn't have a private phone. So I had to call Regla's phone, and then she would obviously be privy to the conversation because she had it on speaker.
Her cousin says Karen often sounded disoriented.
She told me, I gotta get out of here. They're trying to kill me.
Soon after, in October 2022, she died. An autopsy found she died of cardiovascular disease. But 19 days before her death, Karen Walker supposedly wrote this one-paragraph will. I leave my entire estate to my friend, Sue Regla Becerra.
It just sounded unreal. I thought it was fake from the beginning.
Court records show Becerra inherited an estate worth $331,000. What do you think about that?
We're all upset about it, that's for sure.
It included Karen Walker's Arlington home, money and car. We found it sitting here in front of one of the other Arlington homes. Because the will wasn't witnessed, 2 people had to swear it was Karen Walker's handwriting. Becerra was one of those 2 people. The other was Tiffany Brown. She also operates boarding homes. She swore under oath that she was well acquainted with Karen Walker's handwriting, and it's her signature on the will. Grand Prairie police arrested her in March on allegations that she abused 2 people in her care. One was found covered in feces. Another developed bed sores to the point where a bone in her back was exposed and needed surgery. Karen's cousin says he's never heard of Tiffany Brown.
And if she can do that, she can lie.
Brown declined to comment through her attorney. But this isn't the only will involving a client of Becerra. Kathy Lavelle Shiflett died in August 2023. Her will, dated 3 months earlier, awards her home in Irving and any money in her bank accounts to Becerra's mother, Mariana Garcia. Mariana? Hey, we found her living here, in one of her daughter's former boarding homes.
¿Conoces una mujer se llama Kathy Shiflett?
There's a will that lists her as owning a house.
¿Sabes algo de eso?
We spoke to Mariana twice over 2 days.
Hola, Mariana.
We showed her court documents that said she testified in a December hearing about the will.
Eso dice que estabas testificando sobre Kathy Shiflett.
Ajá, for el testamento de Kathy. Kathy is my friend for a long time.
But yesterday you told us you didn't know about the house and didn't know about Kathy Shiflett.
You're not talking me for Kathy.
Okay, so did you recall that in this, you received a house and property?
I don't need this house. I needed more money.
But this said that you recibiste money?
No.
No dinero?
No, nothing.
Mariana ended the interview once she saw our photographer.
Sorry.
Okay.
Months after our first report aired, Regla Becker was charged with murder. A 60-year-old man named Kelly Pankratz died in her care. The Tarrant County Medical Examiner determined he died from mixed drug toxicity. The autopsy revealed there were drugs found in Pankratz's system that weren't prescribed to him. Just before he died, Kelly Pankratz called his brother, who believes he was being drugged and exploited. We obtained an exclusive recording of that chilling conversation.
What's up, dude?
Not a lot. I just wanted to call and tell you I love you.
Okay, what's going on?
Nothing. I'm just here in bed.
There was something different, in his voice. He was just, slurring his speech. It sounded like maybe he had been drugged.
Supposed to be safe. She's like an at-home care physician.
Well, thanks for calling me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
From the recording, it's clear Becker's listening in. Kelly Pankratz died 12 hours after that conversation.
It's kind of haunting now, to go over that.
And his brother was not the only family member sounding the alarm. We spoke to many families, all horrified by how their loved ones were treated in some of these unlicensed homes, and discovered why these places are still allowed to operate. Ella Sanders and Jacqueline Thomas had dementia. Ellen Johnston, Parkinson's disease. Each needed more care than their families could provide. They needed a safe place to live.
I was relieved because I was told it was 24-hour care.
All 3 ended up in unlicensed boarding homes in Tarrant County. Jacqueline and Ella are now dead.
She didn't deserve this. Nobody deserved that.
And Ellen says she nearly died.
Well, I'm so lucky that didn't happen to me.
We blurred photos of the pressure wounds she says she got while in that home because they're so graphic.
I went to hell.
When we began digging, we found those operators had been on the state's radar for years. But here's something important to know. Loopholes in state law allow boarding homes to operate often without licensing and oversight. But if you have more than 3 residents, the state does require licensing as an assisted living facility for homes that help with needs like medications, bathing, or eating. But we found that some operators just ignore the law and avoid oversight by concealing how many people they're housing.
The consequences of defying the licensure standards are so relatively minimal compared to the gain to be had that if you do a simple cost-benefit analysis, it's worth the risk over and over and over again.
Let's talk about this Grand Prairie house on Olympia Drive. 3 times between 2018 and 2019, regulators found the operator, Tiffany Brown, running an unlicensed assisted living facility. Twice in 2020, records say she gave an inspector false information. In 2021, when she wouldn't let an inspector in the house, the state sued. They got a court order to get inside, and regulators again found her in violation.
My mom was in skilled nursing, and I needed a place for her to go.
Stacy Seifert didn't know Brown's history when she moved her mother, Jacqueline Thomas, a dementia patient, into the house last September. 6 months later, in March of this year,
And then the paramedics told me that they found her on the floor covered in her own fecal matter.
court records say Jacqueline suffered sores on her buttocks, so badly inflamed that Jacqueline could not lay on her back.
She wasn't eating, she wasn't drinking, she never walked again.
Police arrested Brown on suspicion of an injury to an elderly person charge in Jacqueline's case. Brown told police an employee didn't show up for work and was unaware the patients were alone.
Did you ever hear from Tiffany after she passed?
Just about paying $600.
Brown wrote via text, "I guess you're not paying me. I pray God has mercy on you." We caught up with Brown at the courthouse.
Please get out of my face.
Jacqueline died April 17th.
She passed in her sleep, so thank goodness for that.
Seifert found Brown's boarding house through a consultant who finds housing for the elderly.
I asked if she's had any problems, any complaints, and they said no, she's great.
The consultant told us operators like Brown pay him to refer clients. He told his clients had complained that Brown verbally abused them and wouldn't let them use the phone. He said he recommended Brown anyway to Jacqueline's daughter. He said it fit her budget. He told us he did not tell her about the complaints. There was another boarding home too, this one on Saddleback Drive in Arlington. Kara Jefferson's mother moved here in 2020. Jefferson recalled the first visit.
You could smell the urine. Then that's when I started seeing blood. And I saw bruises on her body. And I said, well, what's going on? That's when, she had said they won't feed me or give me anything to drink.
She said the operator of the home, Irika Hamilton, was there.
And I asked her what happened to my mom. And I can't remember the answer that she even gave me.
These graphic photos showed the wound on Ella's back.
13 days later, she was gone. Then when you get the death certificate, that said it was from an infection.
Records show inspectors previously found Hamilton running unlicensed assisted living facilities. They got a court order in 2014 to stop her. And in 2019, when state regulators went to the Saddleback house to inspect, they cut their visit short because they felt threatened.
That is so frightening to know that she was still doing this years later.
A WFAA analysis found regulators discovered nearly 300 houses statewide from 2021 to 2023 in violation of licensing requirements.
The way they get around it is to say they're not providing any services. The state agencies don't have enough staff to check on it, and they only check on it when there's a problem.
Retired Texas A&M professor Catherine Halls is a long-term care expert.
In the unlicensed facilities, it's grim.
After Ella Sanders died, Ellen Johnston moved into a different Arlington home, also run by Hamilton.
We went and looked at the house. Everything was clean. We were told all the right things.
Did you think this was a licensed facility?
Absolutely. I absolutely felt safe and protected sending her there.
4 months later,
I told the caretaker that I was going to go to the hospital. So we called the ambulance.
And when they called me, they said it's a stage 4 bed sore to the bone, infected.
And what was Arika's response to all this?
She wanted payment. And I'm like, that's your concern? My mom is fighting for her life.
Ellen now lives in a nursing home. The wound is still healing 2.5 years later.
I have suffered so much with this bed sore.
Hamilton settled the lawsuits filed by Ellen and Ella's family. Her attorney told us those settlements prevent her from addressing those allegations.
There's people out here referring to places like this without any kind of fact checks. Are they licensed? Are they operating legally? Nobody's checking that.
The Texas Health and Human Services Department told us it's not a criminal matter to operate an unlicensed assisted living facility. Instead, it's a civil matter. And if a person keeps doing it, the state says it can get a court to order them to stop. However, our investigation found examples in state records of operators ignoring those court orders.
I think what you're talking about is really the regulations lacking teeth. We need to have a system in place that's ensuring that people aren't being abused and neglected.
Tiffany Brown is currently out of business and out on bond. Someone else operates the house on Olympia. We went by Arika Hamilton's house on Saddleback, the one Ella lived in. What do y'all do here?
Take care of your
An employee told us the clients have dementia. What do y'all do for them?
everything.
Months of reporting uncovered that it's not just about unlicensed boarding homes operating under the radar. In some cases, the people running them are accused of stealing money and property from the elderly and disabled in their care. People like Diana Acox. Diana Acox grew up in this Fort Worth house on Mariann's Meadow Drive. She inherited it from her parents. She didn't have children of her own, but cared for others' kids.
She was a nanny. She was nannying up to COVID. And she was nannying twins.
She was diagnosed with dementia in 2021.
She was just really sweet and confused.
A doctor concluded Diana was mentally incapacitated and couldn't care for herself.
She got discharged to a group home, and that is run by Arika Hamilton.
The name Arika Hamilton is familiar to state regulators. The state sued her after repeatedly finding her operating unlicensed homes that should have been licensed as assisted living facilities. 2 families also filed lawsuits alleging she neglected the care of their loved ones. And now there's questions in a court battle about how she came to own Diana's home. Advocates say the allegations here point to the state's failure to adequately protect the vulnerable from financial exploitation. Diana's house in Fort Worth sat vacant for 2 years while she lived in Arika Hamilton's unlicensed boarding home on Saddleback Road in Arlington. In 2022, Hamilton filed a suggestion of need saying Diana was mentally incapacitated and needed a guardian. So that would indicate that she knew full well she wasn't competent.
Correct.
She also wrote, she is unable to pay for both her care and her mortgage. Hamilton checked a box describing herself as a friend. While that was still pending with the probate court, this document showed up in county records. An August 2023 deed showing Diana sold her Fort Worth house to Hamilton for a price of $120,000.
Diana did not know what she was signing. I do not know if she even knew how to read the contract.
Records show 13 days later, Hamilton put the same house up for sale for $225,000. By then, an attorney appointed by the probate judge was suspicious and blocked any future sales. The court began the process of appointing attorney Andrea Casanova as her guardian. Casanova went to see her at the boarding home.
The staff originally did not want to let us enter the home, even though we had a court order. I was able to visit with Diana for about maybe 10 minutes at the most, until they came back in and they wouldn't let me speak with her privately.
Court records say Diana gave Hamilton power of attorney over her property and finances. Casanova says she also found that Diana's Social Security check was going directly into Hamilton's bank account.
The day I was appointed guardian, I went ahead and did an emergency removal. You could see she didn't even understand that she was being taken advantage of. Her only asset that could actually pay for her care was taken away from her by a predator.
Casanova says Hamilton didn't even give Diana the proceeds from the sale of the house, almost $42,000. In February, Casanova filed suit alleging fraud. The lawsuit demanded the return of Diana's house and personal property. Around the same time, neighbors saw activity here at Diana's house. People were moving in.
Medical vans pulling up, old people getting wheeled out, old people getting wheeled in.
Neighbor Derek Moon.
There's just a lot of movement. Cars pulling up, dropping patients off, picking patients up.
Neighbors told Casanova it appeared Hamilton was turning the house into a boarding home.
They were the ones who raised the alarm to me that, hey, someone's moving in, hey, there are people around.
Casanova sought a temporary injunction and Hamilton agreed to move the tenants out. What does Irika Hamilton say?
She denies everything. She denies that this was financial exploitation of an elderly person.
Irika? We also reached Hamilton by phone. But I wanted to talk to you about Diana Acox. She didn't want to talk to us. There are similar questions in an unrelated case involving another boarding home operator named Regla Becerra. She's currently under criminal indictment on a murder charge in the overdose death of a client who was in one of her homes. Records show she and her family gained control of homes, cars, and accounts of several clients staying in her boarding homes.
They really are a perfect victim. They can't remember what they said, what they did. They're completely reliant on these people.
This past October marked 3 years since Diana lived there. Hamilton still legally owns the home.
That's sad because that's all she had.
Casanova reported the fraud allegation to the Arlington Police Department. Police say they've opened a case and they're investigating.
This is a community issue. It could happen to any one of us, any one of our families, any one of our grandparents.
Diana now lives in a memory care unit in Tarrant County. How is her care being paid for?
Right now she's on Medicaid, but the facility cost is higher than what she can pay.
Does she understand what happened to her?
Not really, no.
Meanwhile, Diana's former house on Marianne's Meadow remains in legal limbo and sits empty. Not long after we revealed what happened to Diana's home, we made another heartbreaking discovery. The mementos of her life discarded as her home hangs in legal limbo.
This is her father when he was in the service.
Oh, wow. Deanna Torres found these pictures, papers, and mementos tossed in her former neighbor's front yard.
These here are some papers of her little sister that died as a baby.
This chronicle of a lifetime belongs to Diana Acox, a dementia patient. This past December, we told you how Acox went to live in a boarding home run by Irika Hamilton. That story detailed how Hamilton bought Acox's home for a price of $120,000, even though in court records she'd acknowledged Diana was mentally incapacitated.
Diana did not know what she was signing.
Acox's court-appointed guardian, Andrea Casanova, spoke to WFAA last summer. She'd filed a lawsuit against Hamilton seeking the return of the house. In January, it appeared Acox was going to get the house back. Hamilton had signed an agreement agreeing to return it. But here's the problem. Hamilton took out a $103,000 loan to buy the house. Deed records show she defaulted on the loan, so the lender foreclosed. On February 4th, the lender sold the house for $171,000.
Her dad's discharge paper.
Days later, neighbors saw workers at the house tossing Diana's personal effects into the front yard.
My daughters and granddaughter and grandson and I came out here and got what we could.
Neighbors told us they informed Casanova. Now remember, she was appointed by the court to protect Acox's interests. They say they were surprised she didn't immediately try to retrieve Diana's personal effects.
Here's another picture of her and her parents. Personally, I would like answers. To me, it's a disgrace to a human being.
This egregious behavior.
Real estate attorney Alicia Melvin isn't involved in the case, but she agreed to review the documents for WFAA.
I would have sought some sort of temporary orders because they were able to go ahead and move forward with the foreclosure.
Casanova didn't answer our questions about how she handled matters involving Acox's house. She said in an email this is a complicated and dynamic legal matter playing out in real time. Court filings show Casanova has hired a law firm to file a lawsuit to try to regain ownership of the house. Meanwhile, the house is listed for sale for $269,000. Acox lives in a nursing home, unaware of what's happened to her house and her belongings.
Diana was a Christian woman. She believed that if she did everything right, that everything would be good and she would be blessed. And this is not how you bless someone.
For people with nowhere else to turn, boarding homes provide a lifeline. When they're operated with integrity and accountability, they provide a crucial service and a place to call home.
So how does that taste, Bert?
Meal times are family time.
It tastes good.
These men live in a boarding home run by Tina Collins.
Thank you, Mrs. Allen.
You're welcome, Joe. Let me know if it needs to be heated some more.
Many of them moved in not long after she opened the home in 2016.
Thank you, Jackie.
Okay.
I work with MHMR with Tarrant County, and so these guys suffer like from depression, bipolar, schizophrenia. For the most part, all of them are independent, pretty much.
Fort Worth passed its boarding home ordinance last year. Collins' home is one of 10 boarding homes licensed by the city.
A lot of the owners are in it for the money, unfortunately. I don't understand how you can open up a home and not have the heart or the compassion to take care of people that need help. This is where my guys reside up here.
Come on, Jack. Hey, there you go.
If these houses don't exist, where do these guys go?
Homeless, unfortunately.
I spent 30 years in the penitentiary.
Jackie Roberson moved in 6 years ago. What were you in for?
Robbing banks.
Where would you be if you didn't live here?
On the streets, I guess. Now I can't make it out there. I'm 82 years old.
For these men, the home's a refuge.
I just appreciate being here. There ain't no other group home like this one here.
A safe place they might not otherwise have. We took our findings to investigators and lawmakers, and they agreed something needed to change. Take a close look.
Pretty much now the worst that you can think of, we've seen it.
These are photos taken inside boarding homes shut down by the Harris County Sheriff's Office.
They hide in plain sight. They're in neighborhoods, they're in single-family residences.
They show how unsafe and unsanitary conditions can get, and the need to regulate boarding homes.
When there's money to be made and easy money to be stolen from either Medicaid or from Social Security.
Only about a half a dozen municipalities in Texas regulate boarding homes. That includes Harris County and the city of Dallas. Those rules include allowing officials to dictate how many people can live in a boarding home.
Every resident gets 60 square feet of living space.
Require fire and code inspections and criminal background checks. And those rules also give officials the power to close boarding homes that aren't licensed.
They don't want to get a license because that costs money.
State law defines a boarding home as a location that houses 3 or more disabled or elderly clients who are provided meals, transportation, and other services.
Ordinances do help, right? But they have to be tailored to your needs in the city that you're in.
In Dallas, police and code enforcement work together to check complaints. This body camera video from Code Compliance shows a September 2024 visit on Buford Drive.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi, how are y'all? Y'all staying dry?
We're trying to speak to someone about this location to see if it's a boarding home or not.
A detective asks who's in charge.
Her name is Miss Regina Joseph. Miss Jefferson, okay. Okay.
How many people living here, sir?
8.
8. Okay. And is she providing meals for you all?
Yes, ma'am.
Police and Code find it's an unlicensed boarding home. We looked into Jefferson's history with boarding homes. We found Dallas police arrested Jefferson last year. She was charged with operating an illegal boarding home at a different location in southeast Dallas. But she also runs this home in south central Dallas, which is licensed. Are you Regina? That's where we caught up with her. You got arrested last year, right?
I did.
You did?
I did.
So they didn't revoke the license here?
No. Well, that was somebody else's property. But it used to be mine.
She denied the house on Buford, the one seen in the body cam, was a boarding home.
You got people with guns and badges pulling up to these houses and to these people. They're intimidated. They love me. They're going to say, yes, Miss Regina doing everything she's supposed. Of course they are. This is who makes sure they're good.
Officials told us they're waiting for the outcome of Jefferson's misdemeanor case before deciding on whether to suspend or revoke the permit at her licensed location. Dallas and Harris County officials told us some operators just don't want to follow the rules.
They work under the radar. We catch them and then they move somewhere else.
In one case, a suspect told Dallas police he was an advocate for the homeless and that he did not intend to register any of his properties. He's also currently charged with operating an illegal boarding home.
He may feel that he's being an advocate for the homeless, but a lot of times he's hurting them, putting them in bad situations. That's where the penalties need to be increased.
Right now, the penalty for cases like Jefferson's is up to 6 months in jail.
Here you go.
We do need the boarding homes, but we just need them done correctly.
In the final days of the legislative session, the Texas House and Senate passed 2 bills inspired by this reporting. House Bill 2510 makes it a crime to operate an unlicensed assisted living facility. And Senate Bill 1137 regulates senior housing consultants for the first time, creating criminal penalties for those who break the law. They take effect September 1st, creating stronger protections for the people who need them most.